Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. We all know football isn't just a game. It's about passion, identity, and fierce rivalries. But have you ever wondered if that intensity could spill over from the pitch into something far more serious? Today, we're diving into the shocking stories of football rivalries that literally turned into real-life wars. It sounds unbelievable, but history tells a different story. First up, the most infamous example, the Football War. The year is 1969. El Salvador and Honduras are set to play a three-game series to qualify for the 1970 World Cup. Tensions between the two nations were already sky-high. For years, thousands of Salvadorans had migrated to Honduras in search of land, creating social and economic friction. Honduras had just passed a land reform law that effectively expelled many of these Salvadoran migrants, forcing them back to an already overcrowded El Salvador. The situation was a powder keg, and the World Cup qualifiers were the spark. The first match was in Tegucigalpa, Honduras. The Salvadoran team was harassed all night before the game, with crowds outside their hotel making noise. Honduras won 1-0. The second match, in San Salvador, saw the roles reversed. The Honduran team faced intimidation, their flag was burned, and their national anthem was whistled at. This time, El Salvador won 3-0. Reports of violence against fans from both sides flooded the news. After this game, Honduras officially broke diplomatic ties with El Salvador. The pressure was immense for the third and final match, a playoff held on neutral ground in Mexico City. On June 27, 1969, El Salvador scored a dramatic winner in extra time, winning 3-2. They were going to the World Cup. But back home, the victory was the final trigger. Just a few hours after the match ended, the border between the two countries was closed. And less than 3 weeks later, on July 14th, the Salvadoran military launched an attack on Honduras. The conflict, which lasted for about 100 hours, became known worldwide as the Football War or the 100-Hour War. Although the war was short, it had devastating consequences. Thousands of people, mostly civilians, were killed or wounded, and hundreds of thousands were displaced. The economies of both nations were crippled for years. While the football matches didn't cause the war, they acted as a catalyst, igniting decades of underlying political, social, and immigration tensions into open conflict. It is a chilling reminder of how a sporting event can become a focal point for nationalistic fury. Now let's travel to the Balkans, a region where football and politics have always been deeply intertwined. We're talking about the infamous Dinamo Zagreb vs Red Star Belgrade match on May 13, 1990. To understand this, you need to know the context. Yugoslavia was falling apart. Nationalist sentiments were surging, especially in Croatia, which was pushing for independence from the Serbian-dominated Yugoslav Federation. Dinamo Zagreb represented Croatian nationalism. While Red Star Belgrade was a symbol of Serbian pride and power, their fans were some of the most hardcore in Europe. Red Star's ultras, the Delage, were led by a man named Zeljko Raksnatovic, better known as Arkan, a notorious paramilitary leader. On that fateful day, thousands of Delage traveled to Zagreb for the match. Tensions were palpable from the start. The match hadn't even begun when fighting broke out in the stands. The Delage began ripping up seats and throwing them at the Dinamo fans, chanting Serbian nationalist slogans. The police, mostly Serbs, were accused of being slow to react to the Red Star fans but brutal in their response to the Dinamo supporters. The chaos escalated, and the riot spilled onto the pitch. Then came the moment that became iconic. As police were beating a Dinamo fan, the team's captain, Zvonimir Boban, saw what was happening. He ran over and famously delivered a flying kick to one of the police officers. For Croatians, this wasn't an act of violence, it was an act of defiance. Boban became a national hero, a symbol of resistance against Serbian oppression. He later said, "Here I was, a public face, prepared to risk my life, my career, everything that fame could have brought, for one ideal, one cause, the Croatian cause." The match was abandoned, but the riot continued for over an hour. The stadium was a war zone. This event is often cited by historians as the symbolic start of the Croatian War of Independence, which broke out a year later. The riot showed the world that the deep-seated hatred could no longer be contained within a football stadium. Many of the fans involved in that riot, on both sides, would go on to fight in the brutal Yugoslav wars. Arkan, the Red Star Ultra leader, would form the Tigers, a paramilitary unit responsible for horrific war crimes. The match that started a war might be an exaggeration, but the Dinamo Red Star riot was undeniably a powerful and violent prophecy of the bloodshed that was to come. Finally, let us look at a rivalry that reflects one of the world's most enduring conflicts, the one in Egypt between Al Ahly and Zamalek. This isn't about a single war, but about how a football derby became a recurring battleground in a nation's political turmoil. The Cairo Derby is one of the most intense on the planet. Al Ahly was traditionally seen as the club of the people, the nationalists who fought for Egypt's independence. Zamalek was often associated with the elite and foreigners. These class and political lines have fueled a century of animosity. This rivalry took a dark turn during the Egyptian Revolution in 2011. The ultras from both Al Ahly and Zamalek, who usually hated each other, surprisingly united. They were some of the most organized and fearless groups on the front lines of the protests in Tahrir Square, fighting against the security forces of President Hosni Mubarak. Their experience in street battles with police at football matches made them an effective force in the revolution. But this unity was short-lived. A year later, in February 2012, came the Port Said Stadium disaster. During a match between Al Masry and Al Ahly, a pitch invasion at the final whistle turned into a massacre. Al Ahly fans were attacked with knives, clubs, and stones. The stadium gates were locked, trapping them inside. The police stood by and did little to nothing to intervene. 74 people, mostly Al Ahly fans, were killed. Many believe this wasn't a random riot, but a planned attack, possibly orchestrated by remnants of the old regime to punish the Al Ahly ultras for their role in the revolution. The disaster sent shockwaves through Egypt. It led to the suspension of the domestic league for 2 years and fueled immense anger and mistrust toward the state security forces. It was a brutal reminder that in Egypt, the line between football, politics, and violence is dangerously thin. The rivalry didn't start a civil war in the traditional sense, but it became a theater for the nation's violent political struggles, with deadly consequences. From Central America to the Balkans and North Africa, these stories show us that football is never just football. It can be a mirror reflecting society's deepest divisions, and sometimes, it can be the spark that lights a devastating fire. It is a powerful lesson on how the beautiful game can be twisted into something truly ugly when politics and hatred take over. What do you guys think? Do you know of any other rivalries that have had such extreme consequences? Let me know in the comments below. Thanks for watching, and if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more deep dives into the world of sports. See you next time.